Alrighty, happy Monday, everybody. Hope everybody's having a wonderful week. Hope you had a great weekend as well. My name is Coach Aaron, and I'm going to explain to you tonight why lower carb diets work better than lower fat diets for longevity and for fat loss. All right. Real quick, if you're watching this video live, it'd be a big favor to me if you could put live in the comments down below. I would appreciate it. And if you're watching the replay after the fact, if you would comment replay, again, that helps me a lot to kind of understand when people are watching and who all's paying attention, all that kind of fun stuff. So here's the deal. First off, I do want to say, I do not think people should be living a low carb lifestyle for the rest of their life. It's no fun. And it's also not ideal. Eventually, people do need to reintroduce carbohydrates, but especially when I'm working with people in the beginning, I actually find to create a calorie deficit, the easiest thing to modify in people's diets to bring their calories down is actually to reduce carbohydrates. And it's also the healthiest. All right. So there's several reasons why that is. First off is for most people, it actually gives them a bigger initial weight loss. So whenever you drop some of the water, also because there's a reduction of inflammation in when you reduce carbohydrates, you can lose even more water weight that your body might be holding on to because of inflammation. So inflammation drops, carbohydrates drop, the scale drops quickly, and it can be a really big motivator for people. Now, you do have to understand, as you do carbohydrate refeeds, which are essential to the long-term process, your weight will kind of fluctuate up and down a little bit more, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, actually, one of my points is how that's actually a good thing to help support muscle mass. All right. The next one is it does actually help your body to get into a more fat burning mode. So our bodies do have a tendency of either burning more carbohydrates or more fats, depending on what we have trained it to do. And if you're giving your body constant sources of carbohydrates and sugar, constantly keeping your blood sugar elevated, your body's going to want to burn that off. And so it will tend to lean towards burning fat or burning carbohydrates for fuel rather than burning fat, because sugar is always available and often in abundance. All right. And the body can really only store so much sugar at a time. So if there's too much sugar floating around, the body's going to want to get rid of that before it starts tapping into your fat stores. So by reducing carbohydrates, we can actually shift the body and get the body to the point where it's making more enzymes that transform body fat and dietary fat into fuel rather than strictly carbohydrates. All right. Reducing carbohydrates can actually support muscle mass when you reintroduce carbohydrates. So, one of the mechanisms for muscle growth is basically the swelling of the muscle that often occurs whenever you replenish the muscle of glycogen. So, you've been on a lower carb diet for maybe 3, 5 days, maybe a couple of weeks, and then you have a good source of carbohydrates and you have plenty of water to go with it. Your muscles will often swell because the glycogen, those carbohydrates, are going back into the muscle. They're getting stored in the muscle where they can be used for your next workout or whatever life experience would necessitate that glycogen. And that actual swelling can encourage more muscle mass in that local area. So by actually depleting carbohydrates and then reintroducing them in regular intervals can actually increase muscle mass growth. All right. Lower carbohydrate diets are actually easier for maintaining appetite. Now, sometimes people will have sugar cravings, but other than that, it's a more satisfying type of diet to be on than a carbohydrate that's lower in fats, which for the record, you do not have to be zero carb or keto to be in a lower carb diet. I have people on lower carb diets that still include fruit, or even they're still having some potatoes or things like that. The big thing there is just how much they're having on a daily basis. So it's possible to still include some carbohydrates and be in a lower carbohydrate diet. All right. I personally find it's just the easiest to create a deficit, to just say, okay, these foods, I'm reducing or eliminating those. I'm definitely eliminating all the sugars and things like that. I might keep, again, fruit, or I might keep some of the healthier forms of carbohydrates in. But for a lot of people, it's easier just to reduce those and cut them out, because in the end, they also don't contribute much in the way of appetite suppression or fullness, all right, with certain exceptions. Lower carbohydrate diets that are obviously then kept with fats reasonably high, the fats help to support several different hormones in your body that you need. for men, namely testosterone, but there are several other hormones that are derived from fat, where if you reduce your fat intake below 30%, we can start to compromise these hormones in the body. We don't want to do that for long-term health and for fat loss. We want to keep those hormones optimized as best we can while in a calorie deficit. By getting away from carbohydrates for a little while, it also allows blood sugar to come down, the pancreas, which makes and releases insulin, to rest and recover, and insulin function to improve, again, provided we reintroduce carbohydrates periodically and in a healthy way. All right. So it can help with insulin function. I mentioned before that it lowers inflammation. So you've got the tightness, the achiness that a lot of people will sometimes get. Sometimes that's not necessarily local inflammation, it's systemic inflammation. And so you can actually loosen up your joints quite a bit, feel a lot better. Also, lastly, whenever you're on a lower carbohydrate diet and you have carbohydrate refeeds, it gives you something to look forward to. Whatever foods it is that you like, again, I always encourage people to lean on the healthier side rather than burger place fries or stuff like that. But even that can still have its place. You have something to look forward to. Nobody looks forward to having a day when they can boost their fat intake, really, but people will look forward to the days where they can reintroduce carbohydrates. They kind of get that carbohydrate high, and then they go into their next phase of dieting. So again, those are some of the benefits I came up with off the top of my head. There are other medical type benefits as well, but in the end, again, I just wanted to share with you guys some of my thought process, why that's the stance that I tend to take for most of my clients. Not always. I have seen some where, due to their circumstances, okay, that's not going to be the best approach for you. But most of the time, the easiest way to create a calorie deficit is we're going to shave off most or all of the carbohydrates and then use that as, okay, we're going to either increase or decrease your carbohydrates depending on what we're trying to do with calories for your specific goals. All right. So if you have any questions on carbs, low carb diets, anything of the sort, feel free to drop them in the comments below, or you can always DM me. Also, I wanted to make sure everybody knows I am going to be organizing a 21-day challenge that you'll be able to do from home or from a gym of your choice, but something I'm going to call it the Fit for the Feast Challenge. So this way everybody can take the 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, do a lot of really good stuff for your body, get yourself really healthy so that when Thanksgiving hits, you can be feeling really good. You can enjoy the feast without any guilt because you know you've made progress towards your goals this year, and we're not even at the end of the year yet. All right. So if you have any questions on that, also say the same thing. Feel free to drop a comment below or shoot me a DM. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will be seeing you next time.